Hello and welcome back to Reality Check. This is a channel that cares for hearts and minds. We have informative conversations, healing conversations that enable you navigate the areas of marriage, parenting, your relationships, your finances, your workplace, and in general, your overall mental health. And so you are very welcome. Thank you for those of you that are back and part of this community. If you are joining us for the first time, please subscribe. Please like this conversation and help, comment, give us your feedback. We love hearing from you. And some of the things that you share with us, we now bring to you in form of conversations like we're going to be doing today. Back again with Jesse Ainebyoona, and Dr. Evas. Dr. Evas is the founder at International Center for Family Life and Mental Health. One day I will get it. Some days I do, some days I don't. And she's amazing. She's an amazing therapist, trained therapist, I might add, in the areas again of marriage, parenting, relationships, and offers support in the workplace. Jesse is a financial, can I call you a financial expert? Yeah, sure. Financial expert. So anything to do with finances, you need training, you need support, he's the person to call. But he's here in another capacity. He's here just as a guy. As a guy. So we received a message from you, one of you, and I won't say who it is, I'll just read the message. And she says she has a humble request. She was making a humble request to Dr. Evas. Would you please consider single parents in your discussions? There's a huge number of us out there who are deeply struggling to raise our children in a godly way, but society has by default undermined this category of families. She says this conversation would be much appreciated. She enjoys our conversations and they've had such an amazing impact on her life. So today we're going to be talking about single parents, but specifically single mothers. And we have noted in our society today that there's many single moms. I don't want to call it a trend because maybe it is not, but for some reason we have so many mothers who are ending up looking after children by themselves. Either they're separated, they're divorced, or they're widowed, or maybe a relationship, went sour. Some, unfortunately, maybe were abused and ended up, in this particular path. So we want to just talk in general. And so I would like to start by asking you guys, why do we think that because I'm sure you have noted in your different circles, why do you think that we are seeing more and more single mothers in our society today?
Sure.
I feel
Jesse, why?
Oh, you have thrown the question to him. Okay.
Thank you, Reachel. I think, like you've just mentioned in the introduction, this is the case for many reasons. Many reasons. In some cases, it could be an unfortunate incident where maybe God took away the father. And so in that case, there is not much that one can do except to accept the situation and then do something about it.
Correct.
But we also know that relationships in this day and age are struggling.
Yep.
And I think the relationship that struggles the most is the husband-wife relationship.
Yes.
And so when there is that struggle, in most cases, it has led to a situation where people go separate ways. There is also the situation of a lady having children before she is ready to settle down with someone. So maybe they were just together and then this happened and a child came up. So now here is a situation where the lady is there with her child and she's not sure she's going to settle down with the father of this child. And so we have seen quite a lot of these things happening. I think there is a lot that we can do about it because it is having a strong impact
on our
on the community, on the society. It is not a good place to see, and yet we see it growing. We see it happening with children. I remember going back to school, there was a common scenario where on visiting day, someone is told, your dad has come. After 3 hours,
your
mom
has come.
And for us, we're looking at it like, wow, this is an opportunity to get more money.
Yes.
But,
but back home, there's a
back
situation.
home, there is something going not right. So I think it is happening for different reasons, which I think we can do something about.
Yeah. I think in terms of, you mentioned something about it growing. I think my burden is that it's being normalized as okay. And I know that for many women, it happens in unfortunate circumstances.
Yes.
But we also know that there are those who are willingly choosing this path.
Yes.
Not realizing its implications, which I'm sure we're going to delve into today. Evas, are you ready? You seem to be.
Yes, I wanted the man to begin.
Okay.
And I think Jesse has explained it very well. So let me start from the start. As you mentioned, we are doing this session so that single moms, because we are talking about how do you survive, how do you work against the odds, and especially if single motherhood is inevitable. I mean, it has happened as part of the natural processes. So how do you still raise healthy children? How do you still, we talked about finances, Jesse. How do you still manage life? Not that in cases where it's not encouraged, where people don't have to make a choice for it. And we'll also be able to have that honest conversation where people are lured into that, thinking it's the easier part of life. But overall, we are trying to make sure that people understand that, yes, you're not condemned to this. You can still, survive, should you find yourself in that place. That's number one. Number two, Jesse has broken it down, so I wanted to add a few more things. So we have single motherhood as a matter of natural processes, which you mentioned. Someone has lost a partner, and so they find themselves in that place. But then we also have where people have made a choice. They've made a choice. And I want to emphasize this because I meet in my therapy line, family therapy, I meet so many people who make a choice, either to be a single mom without ever getting into a relationship, or they become a single mom because they think this relationship is too hard on them. And so they've decided to go that direction, and they say, oh, I can manage, I'll take care of the children, I have what it takes, I don't need to struggle with a man. Or it was a result of some accidental,
you were in a casual relationship.
A casual relationship. So you are in this casual relationship and it results into a child. And there you are. And as you mentioned, was it you or Jesse, that yes, we can't say it's a trend, but probably it is. You see baby mamas, they are becoming so many. And because I'm in the area of mental health and family therapy and stress counseling, I know what happens out there. And so there are those who say, oh yeah, no, it's okay, or it's an accident, or they are dating someone married. They are dating someone married. Some think that the person will leave them and go for them, and they end up disappointed. Some actually manage to grab someone and they live with them. But then, as it were, the person always goes to where they were supposed to go. Or, I mean, they don't know that relationships are very, very dynamic, so many things, and very difficult. I'll mention it here. Relationships are not easy.
No, they're not.
Yeah, so many good. Others have succumbed to feminism, and they think, it's our time. And so having said that, I really want to mention here, before we even get into conversations very deep, that this is a highly sensitive conversation.
Very sensitive.
And my prayer is that we will navigate it, observing all that sensitivity, but at the same time give out information that will be helpful to someone who is stuck, and they can be unstuck.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that was cited in the message that we received was that society seems to undermine this category of families because it's not the ideal father and mother situation.
Yes.
Why do you think, first of all, is there a truth to this? I'm going to call it a claim because sometimes it may just be your personal feeling to this claim. And why do you think single moms perhaps feel this way? Yeah.
Maybe here I could go
first, yes.
Okay, so you talked about ideal.
Yeah.
Because as a student of society, I know that there are certain things society has given us, and it doesn't mean that it's bad. You know, there's what we call order.
Got it.
And that order actually originates from divine order. You know, so there are certain things that are considered ideal. And if we didn't have ideal, then we wouldn't understand something that is not ideal. Having said that, you know, whenever something gets off ideal, there is a way we feel. But also the issue is, should we labor that at all? Now, when I read that message, actually, it reminded me of a time that I had, I was waiting on the Lord for a son. And it's very interesting. One of the things that happened was that every person who met me said, "How are the girls?" And how that makes me feel is not that person's problem.
No.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Why do I feel bad?
That they're asking about the girls.
They're not actually, on a number of occasions, I'll say, "Why don't you say, how are the children?" You understand?
Yes, yes.
But I want to tell you, they mean well.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They mean well. They are asking about the children. But why do I feel a
Some
certain
type
way?
of way, yes.
But leave that alone. It even took me to check. If you get on Google and you Google families, or adverts that are family centered, they will always bring a dad,
And
a
a
mom, a son,
Yeah.
and a daughter.
Yes.
You
It's just
understand?
the way.
You see
it's
that?
just the way
Now,
society
is that something someone has really sat down, again, analyzed all the psychology and come out to hurt you? No. And you know, it got me thinking. I'm like, why don't they bring pictures or images of families that are only girls?
or boys.
They are not there.
Yeah.
So there is a way the world perceives ideal situations, and as I mentioned, this comes now. If you want to check, I don't want to drag anyone into so much spirituality, but when you get into scripture, you see that a parent, a family, a man,
And a
woman, and then sons and daughters. You understand? And so that shouldn't be. So if I see that, I'm going to understand it, but I'm not going to shoot the person who has perceived it as ideal and doesn't consider that there are families that are probably struggling without children, or they haven't given it so much thought. Like, don't give it so much thought.
Yeah.
However, I understand where that person is coming from, because there are so many families now that are off the norm, if you wish.
The ideal.
Yeah, the ideal. And so there are so many single moms, there are so many single dads, by the way, and which are not being recognized. And so as society evolves, it's very important to recognize them. You know, it's important to recognize that these families are there, and therefore they have certain unique challenges or, you know, dynamics that need to be addressed. And so that's where she's coming from.
And I think we live in a society that is largely family-centric.
That's true. Yeah.
I know recently in one of the businesses that I run, in Uganda, it's the trend that when you go to introduce yourself, you'll say, my name is Jesse Ainebyoona.
I'm married.
I'm married,
My wife is
yes.
good.
Yes.
And together we have
This number
these
of
children. So he's not Ugandan.
Okay.
So I think he noticed that. But I think by you guys introducing yourselves as being married, it offends those who are not.
Yes, yes.
So I think it is also just okay to understand that the nature of our community is that we are family-centric.
Yes.
And so when someone stands up and says, I'm a single father, there will be a bit of head turning. We are not at a place where it's perceived to be
okay
or normal and okay.
Yeah.
That's
regardless
right.
of the circumstances.
Yeah.
So I
That's
think,
right.
like Dr. Evas has rightly mentioned, it's now the individual themselves who know the circumstances under which this happened, that you will still become and be yourself, regardless of what you think others think. Because it may not be what they are thinking, it may be what you have made up in your mind, but I think regardless of what others perceive you or how you think you are perceived, I think it is okay to find your place of peace and just find how to deal with it.
That's right.
Yeah. Know your situation and I guess not to take it personally.
Yes.
That other families seem to be in the ideal or what society considers normal.
Yeah.
Whereas for you, because of reasons A, B, C, D, you ended up where you're ending up, but that doesn't define you as a person.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Doesn't define you
Not
as a
at all.
person. And doesn't take away from your sense of familyness.
Not at all.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, like we are going to mention here that there are single mothers that are more intentional about raising their children
than those who are
with fathers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are more intentional, and you see them really making an effort.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
So let's quickly talk about what some of the common challenges single moms are likely to face. Maybe for somebody who is thinking, I think I can do this single motherhood thing. And then for those who are already on that path, maybe to just let them know that we see them and we hear the kind of challenges that they could be facing, and maybe how they can overcome those challenges.
Sure. Sure. So I'll start and rooting it into psychology and family wellness generally. Now, there is a reason, definitely, God determined that we would belong to family, and that family would have dad and mom.
For sure.
I'm sure he's not overtaken by events to know that there are families that will have one.
Yeah. He's not surprised.
He's not surprised. Yeah. So I'll go back to what we call a family system. Now, a family system begins with dad and mom. Or begins with wife and husband, or two people. Man and woman. And I've always shared that. So a family system has subsystems, and for it to function okay, all the subsystems have to be working. However, the relationship between two adults, whether they call themselves husband and wife, is going to determine so much. As a matter of fact, psychology puts it at 80%, the contribution of this important this foundational relationship, right? So if the relationship between this man and woman who become dad and mom, then it cushions the children. It does. It cushions the children. And so that's why it doesn't surprise anyone that then children who are in families where there are two parents with a good relationship, please, I want to emphasize that.
Good
because we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because if this relationship is not good, children lose the same amount of support they are supposed to get. Yeah. So this relationship I mentioned cushions the children, gives them 80% benefits to being healthy and successful children. Right? But now when the relationship is faulty, there is a problem. There is a problem because children then are going to face the same devastation or the same amount of loss.
Yes.
Now, when one person goes, because we have run a session where we have talked about the contribution of moms and dads. So it takes two people to make a child, and it takes two people to raise and nurture a child, because each person has unique contributions. Now, when for any reason, if the dad is not there and the mom is raising these two, there are certain unique losses, if you wish, that happen. And that's why we are talking about this. So, and I will talk about how they can be
rectified.
Yes. So a dad makes an important contribution in the life of this child. Number one, they model authority. Authority is important.
It is.
For any child to know that they submit to an authority. Moms, by their nature, we are not models of authority.
No.
You see?
That's
why in psychology, when we are doing psychoanalysis, someone has a challenge either at work or in marriage, they can't submit to leadership or anything. We always ask, tell me about your family history. And so they talk and then they say, I lost a dad at age 2, actually. Then that's one of the indications. You see? So they are models of authority. Number 2, they are models of leadership. Leadership. And so when a child, without anyone telling them, they know that daddy is the leader. Right? I've talked about things nature has already, or divine nature has already given us. Number 3, they are symbols of courage.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Daddy's power.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So they are symbols of courage.
Yeah.
And so confidence and all that. Now these are not unique. Please viewers, note that I'm talking about unique contributions of dads. In the life of a child.
Yes.
Now, moms on the other hand, they bring in unique care, love, the softer part, the humility, the character formation, all those things that are really, really soft in nature. That's our unique contribution. Now, when a dad is not there, so those if a mom doesn't pay attention to those things, you know, then this child will still grow.
Yes.
But they will be deficient in these areas.
Yes.
Now, the level of deficiency could vary from one person to another, but most likely they miss that. They miss that, especially when they are boys.
Yes.
Yeah. So especially when a mom is raising a boy doesn't use their mom as a model. No. They are always looking for a male figure. Yeah, someone who is like them, right? That's why when a child is, a young boy, when a child is still a little boy, they seem okay until they turn teenagers or they get into preteen, and then most single moms are shocked at how much now this child is rebellious, doesn't seem like they obey anything because they have lacked a male authority to teach them how to submit to a higher place. Okay?
Wow.
Now, so that's big one, the big one. The second one is that psychology is actually showing us that children from single motherhood are likely to have behavioral challenges. You know what I've talked about, rebellion, and that's why I was explaining the root of it. Rebellion basically is a lack of submission to authority.
Yeah.
So psychology is showing us children from single motherhood are likely to be rebellious, especially when they turn teenagers and going forward. They are likely to get into behavior diversions or behavior disorders like drug abuse and all that, and because it is a protest. Yeah, it is a protest, you know, like no one is governing me. However, of course, we'll talk about when single moms are intentional and keep an eye on some of these things, then you're likely to avert, you know, to mitigate, the effect. How can they, do you want me to talk about this now, or you want Jesse to come in first?
Maybe he can.
We can get into the
We can get into the
Can I get
how?
in? So that's why we encourage single moms when you are aware, because one of the things I really want to emphasize here is not for moms to think, I'm a mother and I'm a father and I'm okay. No, there are certain things that you may not, if you're not intentional, that your child is going to lose, right? And so what happens? Then it is highly encouraged. If you're a single mom, for whatever reason, please let your child have a man figure, a father figure that they can look up really to, look up to, relate with. I saw a message last night for one of my relatives who plays a wonderful role as a dad figure to all the children, whether they have dads or they don't. You know, and so they look to him as a wonderful male, father image. And so one of the nieces sent a message to him, and I had called him to say thank you so much for being such a great figure, great support. Actually, I called him, what does Andrew Mwenda call himself? The man of the clan. Man of the clan. Old man of the clan. I had called him Aria to appreciate him. And I said, thank you so much for being such an old man of the clan. And then we talked about it. And I said, I called specifically to appreciate you because he is such a wonderful. But I saw what this girl was writing. She said, thank you for being such a great mentor. Thank you for fathering us. Thank you. Now, it's very important for mothers to know that this child, if they miss that element, it's going to have very serious effects on their lives later on. Now, most mothers take joy or comfort in the fact they can provide, right? Yes. And if you allow me, let me talk about those who intentionally decide to be single moms because they can manage. Please be careful that there are certain things you may not be able to provide. And so when, for instance, parents separate, divorce or separate, there is a temptation for moms because we have an advantage over, custody issues. And so court will always award you that and say you have custody. But because of the pain involved in the relationship, most single moms take comfort in that I have the children, I have the money, they don't even need to connect with their dads. And it's so painful. Now, when children are younger, it feels like it's working. But when they grow and start wondering why, they ask questions which you can't answer. And if, especially when moms have gone through a very painful breakup and they are still dealing with their emotional pain and all that, and they're not able to connect, to understand that these children need both mom and dad, then they deprive them of the relationship and the connection to dad, and it becomes a problem. So my appeal to moms is, yes, for whatever circumstances, whether it's a natural loss of a partner, whether it is a relationship gone bad and broken, you have to be intentional about connecting this child to a male figure. Because there are certain things they may not be able to get. And it has to be a healthy male figure. Healthy male. Don't be desperate to just connect them with anyone. But someone who has values, someone who you believe they can really teach this, and you're intentional. So it's very important that they do that.
Thank you. Wow.
I think, we used to have a saying that it takes a village
to raise
a child. And you can see that even a child with both parents still learns so much from other people that are not just your parents. Because sometimes, you get used to your parents saying something, but then your uncle comes in and just says even half of what your parents, and then somehow you take it
makes sense.
Makes sense. So I think not only being focused on the provision, which I think is what many people are looking at. Just what people are looking at, that if I have the money, I can provide everything. I think it's important that we recognize that there is much more that the child needs
than money
and the material provision. Guidance is one of the places, and I think I have experienced this a lot with
male example yes.
to watch.
Yes.
You know, so can you come in and talk to my son? You know, I remember a mother that was quite, you know, insistent on that. And then also it could happen in a situation where the boys are not even thinking about marriage.
Yeah.
And maybe it is because
of what they experience.
What they experience or what they are lacking. That, you know, sometimes it takes a man to say, what are you thinking? For you to actually think about it.
That's
you know?
true.
So
that's true.
I think intentionally having these connections, and we see the concept of mentorship and apprenticeship growing. It's happening a lot in career where we tag people to others, and if someone wants to do a certain career, you tag them with someone who's already doing it. It's already working out there in the world of work. I think we can bring it in the family so that we can cover for those gaps that are already happening.
Dr. Evas, I want you to speak to the mental well-being of a single mom. And I actually thought you were going to handle it when we're talking about challenges. But I feel that, or maybe from what I've observed, that most of the single moms either are going to make decisions based on the fallout of the relationship. So if the fallout is bitter, that's why you see maybe people saying, you're not even going to see the children. You know, I'm not going to give you opportunity to see the child. And so there's a healing that needs to happen for the single mom, and in order for them to be a good mother, or in order for them to be an exemplary mother. And I want you to speak to them prioritizing that mental well-being and noticing that the decisions that they might be making are based off of pain and hurt and frustration, rather than, is this really what's best for my child?
Yeah. How did you know that's what I was writing?
Holy Spirit.
Rachel. So that's very important. So I was noting it down so that I don't forget it. I remember years back, I was talking to a child whose parents separated, and it had been like 13 years. Now, 13 years, they were little. She was 7, the brother was 5, and so the parents separated. And so I was asking her what she knew about their parents' relationship. And she said, they were okay. Yeah, they were okay.
They seemed okay.
So they seemed okay, and she said, Daddy was nice. You see? So the fighting that was happening in the background, they were not privy to it. And of course, I've talked about parents protecting their children's mental health. However, then the fight continued. And then all she remembers, she was now 20, she was 20. All she remembers is that at some point the parents called them and they said, we are going through a divorce. She said she didn't know what a divorce was. And none of them broke it down for them. So after that, she moved from a nice dad to a disappearing dad. And so she's angry, and so is the brother. And so they're saying, what happened to dad? And he didn't tell them, the mom didn't tell them, so they moved from here to here, and they had no information. Now, from that point, the mom struggled, and as you have said, and as a therapist, I know, and I was explaining to her that no one marries to divorce. No one. So all of us marry to have a good marriage and to be okay. And when divorce happens, there's a grieving.
A mourning.
There's a mourning. There is a devastation that happens. Anyone who doesn't feel that actually is not normal, right? So when that relationship breaks, people break, people hurt, they process pain. Now, it's so important that this mom who has stayed with the children considers that the children feed off their lives. Right?
Yes.
So there is a lot they are getting from you.
Yeah.
If moms or dads, we'll talk about dads, but if moms or single moms have, in that situation, have realized, the children will always check in. And they'll go like, are you okay?
Is she okay? Yeah.
As a matter of fact, children now move. They bypass a certain stage. They leave childhood behind.
Yes.
And they
quickly grow up.
They quickly grow up to fit into the current situation because they are worried about
Their
mom. Now, mom is hurting. And so most of the time, moms also reposition themselves, they regroup, and they want to protect the children, which is natural, and which is wonderful. However, most of the time, they are coming from a place of pain and anger. And so everything they are doing them out of anger.
Aggression.
And they're vengeful.
Yes.
They're trying to prove, they get into a world of self. Let me prove to this person I can do it. Now, that's not a healthy place to come from.
It's not.
Rather, someone needs to heal. They need to work with a therapist, process
the emotions,
yes. Understand where everything came from. And resolve. So that resolution has to happen. If it doesn't happen, someone is going to come from a bad place. So you find you're trying to do a good thing, but you're coming from a bad place. Now, that's one of the reasons why, for instance, a mom wouldn't sit down and break it down to the child. Because every time they remember the process, they feel so much pain. And once they feel so much pain, they're going to cover it. And then they're going to run and try to compensate. Right? So so instead of now, again, I want to use that example. I listened to this child's heart. And the child said, she said something like, there are certain conversations we don't go to. And she said, every time we want to go into that conversation of what happened, because this child has so many unanswered questions. And so when the mom is hurting and doesn't provide answers, the child continues to process this. And every time we don't get answers to life's questions, we get stressed, and then we plunge into depression, right? Because the brain loves clarity. So every time there's no clarity, they're going to plunge into depression. Now, even this person, when they don't resolve the pain, then they are not in a good mental health state. And because they don't, then this child feeds off a person who is not in a good state. So most of the time, then they are eruptive, they are angry. You find that they are transferring anger to the children or projecting their own pain or whatever it is. So it's so important that any person who goes through that process considers meeting with a professional therapist and gets closure. So once there's no closure, there is always going to be pain. And as long as there is pain, you can do provision to the children, but you're going to be limited. You can actually even say certain things to them in form of guidance, and the children don't understand because you haven't had resolution. And therefore, there are certain things you wouldn't explain to the children. So you can teach them, tell them how God, I don't know what, but then they are asking questions, they're saying, why? Because this child, number one, they trust the adults that brought them to the world. So as long as adults have a broken relationship, children will always ask, why? Why? So how can we trust? Because that relationship builds trust in children. Children trust the world through us, parents. And so when they see adults managing, they go like, oh, then the world is safe because my parents are here. So it's a big thing.
It's a big deal. Do you want to comment on that?
I think it's just important that the mother in this case does not deny the situation. Because then when that happens, you're not able to speak to the children, you're not able to help them to appreciate some of their unanswered questions. And then there are also those that are out of touch with reality. They have this, and I think they feel like they can harbor it, but then it's like a wound that never heals.
Yeah.
And so they just move on and they think they can provide, but every time it comes up, I mean, I've had a conversation where we're just talking and then it led into family, and you could just tell
The countenance.
that you have
You've
touched on
touched them
something
now.
That's
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
is just not nice. So I think we shouldn't mask, you know, we
Yeah.
shouldn't put a mask. We should just face the reality that if this has happened, there is a place for us to find therapy
Healing.
and to find help, at least for your own sake
Yes.
and for the sake of your children.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can I emphasize this? I guess it's repetition, and repetition is emphasis.
Yeah.
Can I just emphasize it? That please, the number one thing that moms need to tell children is the truth. Please share truth. However, you can't share truth if you haven't made peace with it.
With it, yes. That's true.
And so as long as the children are not have unanswered questions, they are not going to be healthy. They actually, most of them, they have anger building up on the inside. And it's not uncommon for children then to come out and speak to their parents in a very disrespectful way.
Yeah.
Because they go like, what do you mean? You're actually the one who pushed our dad out, or something, you know, something like that. And so it's very, very important that moms don't settle in the place of I can provide. And by the way, Jesse, you mentioned it. Sometimes we say, I give the children everything.
Yeah.
So every time a mom or a dad is saying that, I ask them, well, can you break the everything?
Is everything.
Yes.
For me?
Yes.
So what is it?
Yeah.
Now you'll find that it's all material.
Mostly. Yeah.
Mostly finances. I've taken them to a good school. I mean, what do these children want? You know, I've done it. Don't they see? But the number one thing is relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the moment they have questions around relationship and they are unanswered. Now, in answering them, part of the truth could be, you know, the relationship didn't work. We failed to agree on certain things. Maybe you don't want to get into so much detail.
Yeah, because this is still their father.
It is
still their mom.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is important truth. The second thing is ill talking.
Yes.
Ill talking the partner. I was so blessed. This child I was speaking to, she said, for the last 13 years, mom has never ill talked my dad. The relationship, she has not talked about it. Yes, we need answers, but we've never had her curse dad or talk about this. Now, that's what we call fighting through the children. Now, most of the time, we get our children to be our place of venting and emotional let out, but it can be dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, if the relationship between you and your partner didn't go well, please protect the children.
Yeah.
Give them information, but don't plunge them into details that are likely to wound them. Remember, the child doesn't have enough emotional structure to process certain things.
Yeah.
If you say your dad is bad, they'll just take it.
That's
Yeah.
it.
That's it.
Yeah.
If you say the relatives of your dad are hell, they'll just take it at face value. And the next time you make peace or you want to, they'll say, remember, by the way, you're teaching them, you're conditioning their hearts.
Yes.
And if you teach them hate, they'll hate everyone. They'll not just hate their dad. They probably will hate all men. Or hate society or hate school. And so it's very important that we protect children. Now, part of the care or survival strategy for single moms is to make sure they guard their children's hearts. Guard them. Don't put anger, don't put hate, don't put all the negative emotions, because it will be very hard to remove them later on.
And I think
what I'm just realizing here is the situation is already bad.
Yes.
So don't make it
Don't
worse.
make it worse. Yes.
Don't make it worse, because you can imagine if you ill talk somebody what is the chance? Because already that, you see, naturally people can bias you against somebody.
Someone, yeah.
Naturally, people can bias you against someone by the way they are talking about them. So if it is a girl growing up and then hearing all this talk about how dad treated mom, already there is a way she looks at men. And that is also growing.
Yeah.
There is a whole group of, you know, there's a mindset around girls and how they think about men. And when you think about it, it is coming from somewhere.
For sure.
Someone talked about some men somewhere,
Yes,
and they
yes.
have used all these examples to reach a conclusion.
Yeah.
That men are not to be trusted. Look at what he did to my mother. You know, so I think it is possible to raise a child, but we have to do our best to protect the image of the other person.
Yeah. I want us to quickly talk about finances. I mean, since you are here, I think one of the challenges that single moms face is finances. Even though there's a breed of single moms who are like, I can provide.
Yes.
There's that single mother who maybe is struggling to get a penny from the father of her children. And again, my observation, I have not been in this situation, so it's just an observation.
Yeah.
I find that rather than now start to think, okay, how can I make this situation better for myself? You find most moms camped saying, I must get money from this man. You know, they're involving all kinds of people. They are camping at his home. They are, you must give me money. So there's a lot of time that is going by when they could be thinking, maybe, how do I set myself up to have something? I mean, just in case this man never comes through. I want you to speak to that. How can you empower single moms? Yes, as you hold the man accountable, because I know people are going to say we need to hold him accountable. These are your children. Yes, but you need to eat, and just in case you have the children, they need to go to school, and so empower the single mom who might find themselves in that situation.
Thank you, Rachel, for bringing that up. I think it begins with a mindset that it's possible. I mean, we all know examples of people. Maybe the lady serves still in an office somewhere, or maybe she's a secretary somewhere, and then she tells you about her 4 children
who are educated
and how they are at the university, and you're thinking, wait a minute,
how?
Like,
with which
show me the
income?
math, you know? So I think for me, all that brings out the conclusion that it is possible. It is now just us to figure out how it could work. So I think just keep your focus, prioritize them, be part of the group, and manage however little money you make. As the children grow older, I have also seen some of them involve them and help enabling them to also bring in more finances. And as a result, some of them have raised children that have a strong work ethic. You know, so, you know, God's plan, at the end of the day, his plan that, you know, his plan is not to harm you, but to give you hope and a future. Taking away that man or your situation does not cancel God's plan.
No, it doesn't.
In that situation alone, there is still a glimmer of light that God's plan will still be fulfilled. And so you'll find that there is favor, that you have maybe an opportunity that you embrace that can bring in that money. It is now about how we manage it. But there is hope, and it is possible.
I love that. You want to comment?
Yes, I wanted to comment that there is a lot of regrouping that has to happen
for sure
after the partner has gone, whichever way they've gone. So what Jesse was talking about, the need to adjust.
Yes.
I think I've met some moms who still live in denial. And then others who are fighting. And actually, as Jesse was talking, one of the things I've experienced is that people have no idea about the law, right? Like custody issues. So after maybe they've separated, and the man, we also have a breed of men who don't want responsibility.
They're there.
And so they just have children, and they haven't considered that I need to take care of those children. And some of them have to be held accountable to take care of children. But my experience is that most moms have no idea about how the law protects them. right? So I think I'm not a legal person. It's an area that I would encourage moms to explore. Please ask, check with a lawyer what has happened, or rather what can happen in terms of a man supporting these children. Remember, there is pain involved, and the pain is not just with the mom, it's also with the man, depending on how the breakup happened. We are talking about where relationships don't work, and so some men also get angry and go. So you've this hasn't worked, you've even taken the children, what am I left with? I go. And so they don't provide. And I really want to also speak to men who have pushed moms unreasonably into single motherhood. Yeah, because they are those.
They're there.
I'll speak as a relationship person, because I know that some women have really tried to hold on to this relationship. Sometimes moms really keep into relationships, and they are more attached to children. And I think this is common knowledge that you hear even songs being sung, for the sake of my children, I'll be there. But some men really have done treacherous things, and they've pushed these poor women into single motherhood. And even when they have pushed them there, they are not supporting them. They are not supporting, they just
abandon completely.
They just abandon. So that's something that really I would beg,
the men.
Should I say beg? I really
Implore.
want to implore. I really want to appeal to men, especially. Just consider that, by the way, there are children involved, and I've seen sometimes dads who have run away and thinking they have a better deal out there, and they've left the women to fend for them, and later on children hate them so much. They've disconnected. And by the way, a parent to be hated by their child, it's not a good
That's
thing. Not a cup of coffee.
It's not.
Right? And so I really want to appeal to dads. Please don't push this woman who is still willing to work with you. Don't abandon a family and render this woman single, and then abandon the children. And they have to fend. Some of the pain that comes from there has really driven people into unpleasant places.
That's true.
So some of the children who are so angry, we have so many angry children. Angry children who don't even want to look at their dads or moms or whatever. So that's, I don't know how I got there. But let me also emphasize the issue of morality. Yeah?
Please.
Because when a mom stays with children, don't just be obsessed with provision. Remember, children are also learning from you. And so some moms, out of frustration, out of pain and all, they can get into behaviors out of impulsivity. Don't get there, because children, by the way, they learn morality from us, and so when they see you, the relationship has ended with their dad. Tomorrow you have John, another day you have Peter, another day you have Tom.
Oh my gosh.
And they form certain perception. By that, that's big. That's really, we are talking about raising healthy children as a single mom. So that morality goes a long way in shaping a child's worldview. And so, as a matter of intentionality, moms, I really want to appeal to them. Please protect your children from certain things, or get determined not to get into certain things because of your children. Right? Don't feel like, as Jesse has said, you haven't lost everything, you know. So there is an important, it's very important for a single mom to regroup and say, you know, I can still be okay. I don't have to get into another relationship just to prove to my husband, who thought I wasn't beautiful enough or something. Just check, why are you doing what you're doing? If it's coming from a place of struggle, just check with someone to help you heal.
Yeah.
Because if you do things from a place of struggle, it's going to affect your children big time. Don't try to make money. Jesse has mentioned there are all skills to make money in a good way.
Yes.
So if you think now that this man has gone, and honestly, both of you help me. It also comes from a place of our perceptions as women and how we perceive money. Sometimes women have thought that men are they have like the sole privilege of making money.
Making money.
Even when women have money. When we have more money, we think the man should bring money. And by the way, if someone has, I don't want to sound unreasonable here or insensitive, but sometimes you find someone has money, but because they don't have a man in their lives, they get into this self-pity mode and
damsel in distress.
Yes, and then they feel, some man has to come in and help me. No, money is money, and how we make it is a matter of the brain. And so that's why men sometimes have a hard time looking at women who make money because it's a brain issue. It's a brain issue. So I want to encourage women that they can still live healthy, they can still make good moral choices, and they can still really take care of their children, and they can raise great children.
They can.
Great children, by the way.
They can.
Great children, because I've also seen moms who, when they are single, then they double their effort.
Exactly.
That's true. What Jesse was talking
they
about.
double their effort. Actually, we also are saying, as I mentioned, I use the statistics. Sometimes I know people don't connect with statistics very well. I said that they have a higher chance of getting in, but it doesn't mean that children from single parent families can't be great.
Yes.
Man, they have a high sense of resilience. Resilience that other children may not have. They have so much courage. They regroup very quickly. They approach life courageously. And so, but that, as I mentioned, that courage has to be coming from a good place, not a place of struggle.
That's true.
That's so we can still raise great children even when you're single, and so it shouldn't feel like you're condemned and your children too.
Jesse, any final words? Final thoughts?
My final word is an appeal to fellow men, where a man is involved in a situation of a single mother. If God took away the man, that is understandable. But for a man that
is around
this relationship, and maybe you were involved with this lady and knowing that you would not end up with her, you have moved on. I think don't lie to yourself that you can be happy elsewhere when there are some children somewhere in the corner of this world that call you their father. You are the only father
that they have.
So even when you think you can move on, you cannot move away from that responsibility. So I think it's incumbent upon any man out there that knows that they fathered a child somewhere. Take responsibility. You are their father. There is no other man they can call their father apart from you. So you may not be with them, but do your best to still provide for them. Be available where you can, in any way possible. There is a way. Just like you were involved in making those children, be involved in raising them.
Need we say more?
Yes. I'd like to appeal to moms.
Please.
Maybe those that haven't been, those that aspire to be.
Aspire to be mothers, yes.
And I know that there are those who think that single motherhood is easier than being struggling with a man. I really want to appeal to you ladies that raising a child alone is not easy.
It's tough.
No, it's not easy. And no one should ever lie to you that that's the easier part. No, it's not. It's one thing to have a baby, and it's another to take them through life. And as a parenting coach, and a family therapist, I'll tell you, unless it is inevitable, unless it is really a matter of life and death that you have to opt for single motherhood, don't go for it. It's not the easiest thing.
Yeah.
It can seem easy when you're just doing the easier part of buying sausages and all those things.
Yeah.
But in terms of raising a complete, well, healthy person, successful child, I would appeal to moms and moms to be that don't opt for that if you still have an opportunity to choose something else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you both. Thank you, Jesse, and thank you, Dr. Evas. I think this has been enlightening. I think even as we speak to single moms, those that are not, the rest of society and community, there's a lot that you can do to support single mothers beyond judgment and condemnation and criticism. Offer support in the smallest way that you can. If you can afford to maybe say look after her children so she can go out and have some downtime, do that. If you can recommend a therapist like I am doing right now for that inner healing, because you need to be healthy in order for you to raise those children the best way possible. If you're not resolved, especially based on what has happened, then it's going to be an uphill task to raise that child or children. And yeah, whatever other advice we have shared on the show, I hope that you take it and apply it in your own situation. Let us know what it's going like for you in your experience, maybe how you ended up a single mom, if you're at liberty to share, and how we can be of support. I know there's a lot more that we could talk about, like dating. How do you begin to introduce, partners to your children? That's a conversation for another day. And maybe some more practical steps on how you can raise these children in a holistic way so that they grow up to be the people that God intended them to be. My name is Reachel. Jesse, Dr. Evas, thank you once again. We'll be back again next week. Do keep it reality check and don't forget to subscribe and like this episode. Bye.